We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Prize Picks. What's up, everybody? Conference Championship week. Couple good games today. Couple good edges to attack, I think, in both games. I actually have gone through a decent amount of content this week. Typically, I try and keep to myself a little bit, but these two game slates, I wanted to see what other people are talking about, and I feel slightly differently than I think a lot of people do about these games. So I'm excited to talk through that with you guys. We're going to go position by position. We're also going to build a couple lineups at the end. But how are we feeling? How was your guys' divisional round? We got a couple streams last week. We got to go through some some live late swapping, which is a lot of fun. How'd you guys end up? Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, lots of snow, lots of cold weather. That's for sure. Andy, what's up, my man? Wayne Casey's in here. Hardcore King, Renegade Null. What's up, guys? Casey Bone, J.R. Heineke, the Duke. What's up, Dixon? How's it going, my man? How we doing? How we doing, friends? Andy's in here. What's up, Andy? Let's get after it. Let's get after it. There's a bunch of polls that I want to get to. Obviously, it's a little bit different with such a small slate, but there's a few things here that I need to get your guys' take on as we go through, and we'll do a couple of showdown lineups as well. I thought that was fun. Last week, we had one of our showdown teams. I believe it was the Stephon Diggs captain team with both Patriots and Texans defense. Ended up finishing top 200 out of 20,000 in that big 100K to first showdown special. So that was pretty good. Didn't get all the way to the top, so not good enough, but a nice 5x, which is pretty decent. Pretty decent. Dixon says it's Jordan Whittington day. Wow. Yeah. Pick the right tight end day. It might be. We will see. We will see. Let's start with I guess one of the more interesting polls, but probably one of the quicker polls I think we'll do today. Who's going to be this week's highest owned player? Puka Nacua, Kenneth Walker, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. Highest owned player on this two-game DraftKings slate. What do you guys think? Need that says it's Terrence Ferguson day. I mean, it might be literally just pick the best Rams tight end and you win all the money today. Could be. That could be the difference. Just play all the same lineups, but just rotate through a different Rams tight end. Play 4 teams. Just hopefully you get the right one. I've heard a couple people talk about that strat. Crazy. Yeah, obviously no Bo Nix. That's one of the crazier things that has happened going into a conference championship that I can remember. It was one of the last plays of the game. Goes down with a season-ending ankle injury. So such a bummer for them. Bummer for this Broncos team in general. But Jared Stidham, I mean, if we go back to the preseason, I know a lot of you guys are grinding some preseason DFS. He was by far the best quarterback in the preseason. So we'll see if we can get some backup quarterback matchup in this, or backup quarterback magic in this one. We will see. Kenneth Walker. Yeah, I'm not going to let this one ride any longer. Quite obviously the highest owned player. Obviously, no Zach Charbonnet going down with that torn ACL last week. Kenneth Walker, 3 touchdowns, goes absolutely nuclear. Pretty tough to get away from him in the projections. There's, I mean, the one, I guess, route you could see him not being the optimal is if he gets hurt, I suppose. But we'll talk through a couple other scenarios as well. Let's move on. Quarterback, though. Top quarterback play today. We are talking price considered here. In game number 1, we have Drake May versus the aforementioned Jarrett Stidham. We have Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford. What do you guys think about quarterback on this 2-game slate? Jarrett Stidham all the way down at 4,500. And then if you want to go all the way up, Matthew Stafford at 6,300. What do you guys think at quarterback today? If you're here for the first time, exclamation point vote, space the number in order to place your vote. I would assume a lot of you guys have done this by now. It is conference championship week. We've been doing this every single week on Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Stafford's an interesting one, right? Because I think that the passing volume is a little bit safer than Sam Darnold in particular. These games have been very different. Obviously, division rivals, 2 games on tape already from them. We had one really low-scoring game, and we also had one really high-scoring game. So the pass attempts on Stafford have been elevated in the playoffs in general. And I would say he's probably one of the best bets that we have the entire week from a pass attempts perspective. Have a bunch of overs on Stafford as well. The interesting thing is just how good the Seattle defense has been and just how poor Stafford has really played down the stretch, right? So For me, I think that the ownership, we're talking a little bit about like this quarterback position being relatively flat. I would be shocked if Stafford gets over like 25% in small field. So I'm not against going the Stafford route just because he's very easy to stack outside of the Russian roulette of tight ends. But I do think that he's one of those guys that there is some volatility there just with him not playing very well down the stretch, right? We'll see. We will see. I would say it's notable too that the game where Stafford went crazy, Seattle was battling through like a bunch of injuries on defense. On the other side of that game, like Sam Darnold, it's the story as old as time, right? He's been very susceptible to pressure. The Rams will definitely bring pressure. He's been a lot better when it comes to that this year, but will he turn back into a pumpkin with the bright lights in a big game? We'll see. Sam Darnold has definitely performed so much better than I expected him to this year behind this pretty poor offensive line, honestly, but is a pretty good matchup overall for him. Jackson Smith and Jigba, who we'll get to, and a pretty clean stacking partner with him. The problem isn't necessarily the efficiency with Darnold. It's going to be, do we get the pass attempts we need for him to actually separate from these quarterbacks, right? Dixon, what a question. What flavor do you normally order your wings? Buffalo, barbecue, garlic parmesan, teriyaki. What a question. There's this place in Minnesota that my wife and I go to. It's kind of like a little bit of like a hole in the wall. They have a menu of like 100 different sauces. I'm big on spicy in general. So I like kind of like a mix of like jerk and buffalo. Also like anything habanero for the most part. I'm a spicy guy. Yeah, barbecue wings are fine. I do like some garlic, so anything garlic parmesan I think is pretty solid too. Teriyaki, I can get there with the barbecue and teriyaki stuff, but I'm almost always going to break the tie with something spicy. Yeah, that's just me. That's just me. I think actually a couple years ago posted something on Twitter. My wife is like the worst at actually like cleaning the bone in general. So we went to this exact place that I'm talking about, and it was just an abomination of like her basket versus my basket. Posted on Twitter, and it was like probably one of like my most highly engaged tweets of all time. People were not happy with her wing eating skills. Jerk Buffalo sounds good. Yeah, that's what I'm all about. We're pretty flat at quarterback here, friends. Interesting. Very interesting. Not a whole lot of news to really go through today. Not a whole lot of news. We're kind of waiting to see if Mac Hollins is going to be out there, right? They did activate him from injured reserve. We'll see. We will see. One of the best run blocking wide receivers in the league too. So there's definitely some angles there. Do we have any J.K. Dobbins news? I don't think we do, right? Let's check J.K. Dobbins quickly. He has been ruled out. He has been ruled out. So we'll see if the Broncos can keep this thing moving and we end up getting J.K. Dobbins in the Super Bowl, but no J.K. Dobbins in the AFC Championship game. So we'll have R.J. Harvey. We saw a little bit more Jaleel McLaughlin last week than I thought we would as well. We'll get there. Quarterback, though, is interesting. Like, if you wanted to pay all the way down for Jared Stidham, I suppose you could. I think he's going to perform relatively well. I don't think they're going to really change the game plan a ton. I heard some smart people talking about how basically it's not really like a high efficiency offense anyway for Denver. So if Jared Stidham can kind of continue to at least move them down the field through volume, but not necessarily through efficiency, he could surprise some people. This is someone that they went out and targeted very early in free agency, signed to an extension. They really like Stidham in Denver. So obviously really tough spot to come in the conference championship, but would be surprised if he was at least reasonable in this spot, right? The tough thing is like his number one weapon is going to have to deal with Gonzalez the entire night. And then obviously we'll see how much Surtain versus Stephon Diggs we get. Possible we see a lot of Surtain against Booty on the outside. There's a lot of things at play here. Drake May, I think, pretty clearly is the top quarterback play. Denver's defense has not been near as elite down the stretch, right? So the problem is, who do you pair with Drake May? There's a lot of different options there as well. We kind of have some similar problems, I suppose, once we start getting into some roster construction stuff. Well, let's keep moving. We'll keep talking about the quarterbacks, obviously. We'll make another poll at the end and we figure out what team we're going to stack up. Let's talk about running back, though. So best running back play not Kenneth Walker. So I think Kenneth Walker is obviously far and away the best running back play at just 6,200. They should have probably cranked him up to like 8,200 with this role. So let's take him out of this poll. If it's not Walker, who is the best running back play outside of him? RJ Harvey, Ramondre Stevenson, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, Travion Henderson, or other? What do we like at running back if it's not Kenneth Walker today? If Stidham is that good, I really like Ingram a lot more now. Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't considered Ingram a ton. Big disappointment, honestly. He was one of those guys that I did actually really like coming into the season. He just hasn't been out there for a ton of routes overall. Like 30 snaps last week on 72, like 23 snaps the week before against LA. It's just not great. The targets have been all right. Yeah, I mean, if Evan Ingram ends up being the guy that you need, I might be in a little bit of trouble. Might be in a little bit of trouble. But at 3,300, you could do worse. I think I'm probably going to go the Colby Parkinson route versus Evan Ingram, personally. If that buries me, I think I can live with that. All the George Halani. Maybe. Yeah. The George Halani props. It is interesting, right? Like they definitely like him, and I don't think I would be shocked if they schemed up like something kind of something special for him. He had a couple run. I think he had one run in particular. I can't remember what week it was, but he broke like a 15-yard touchdown on like a wheel route or something like that. So they try to get the ball in his hands. I just don't know if they're going to trust him as much in a game like this. I think most of his touches came in a game this year where it was completely out of hand, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he got 7 rush attempts in a game against the Cardinals where they won 44-22, and he had 10 rush attempts in a game against the Saints where they won 44-13. And I think in that Saints one in particular, he only had 1 touch before the game was like 3 scores. So, Trevor, appreciate you, man. Each Sunday morning, we're here. Yeah, man, it's been an awesome season. Still, I guess, undecided if there's going to be a Super Bowl live stream. There'll definitely be some content out there, short form, but also probably a long form video as well. It depends on the wife. We are due like right around bye week Super Bowl, like could come at any moment. So if there's no live stream, there's a good reason. Troutman is the play. Interesting. A lot of Ramondre love here. Okay. I get behind the Ramondre stuff. He's been really good, obviously, over the last like few weeks. He's definitely separated himself from the Travion Henderson love out there. Travion's interesting, I think, because he can always break a big play. But realistically, Ramondre has been just way better than I originally expected him to be this season, but also just like down the stretch in general. I kind of thought that there was a moment there where Travion had completely taken over, but he really hasn't done that. From a volume perspective, they still really trust Ramondre, right? 34 opportunities already in the playoffs. We get a little bit of a discount on price here. He's faced some really tough rush defenses over the last couple weeks, but still averaged 85 rushing yards per game over his last 3. So, yeah, I do like that call. Mm-hmm. I do like that one. James Cook, obviously, big game against Denver last week. So I don't think it's the worst idea to try and get some Travion Henderson in your lineups as well. He is a guy that can break some big plays on limited touches. So I'm not ruling that out. RJ Harvey's an interesting one, right? The Pats have given up the 6th most receptions to running back. So wouldn't be surprised if Harvey's pretty active in the passing game. He has averaged 39 receiving yards over his last 4 games. So I do have a receiving yards over for RJ Harvey that I grabbed earlier in the week. So I think that one's somewhat interesting. Like if you're just looking at that range, right? Like that price range, if we're taking Kenneth Walker out of it, like Stevenson, Harvey, Henderson, I think Stevenson's probably the best play of that group. Travion's kind of interesting just because if this ownership holds a little bit. I mean, he does have 4 touchdowns of 50 plus yards this season, right? And we mentioned Denver got destroyed last week. 174 total yards to the Buffalo backfield allowed. So I'm not ruling it out. Not completely ruling it out, at least. The guy that I'm like somewhat interested in, we did end up playing him on our main team that we built on this show last week. But Kyron Williams, like if Puka, Devontae, if they end up failing, Kyron Williams is the one that probably benefits from that. Also, we could get a little bit more receiving work for Kyron as well. The Seahawks have allowed the most catches to the running back position, just kind of the way that they play. A lot of pressure, kind of trying to force people to check down underneath these short passes, ends up funneling a lot more work to these running backs through the air. So I do like that one quite a bit too. What else? What else? Ramondre seems to be the far and away guy. I think I'm with you guys on that though. Let's keep this moving so we have a little bit more time to build some lineups. I probably could have ran this one first, but top elite play. So if you were to talk about just these two guys, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, the two highest priced guys, 9K for Puka Nacua, 8K for Jackson Smith and Jigba. If you had to pick one, who is it? Would I consider doing a Super Bowl live stream watch companion? Possibly, possibly. We normally have a bunch of people over for the Super Bowl though, so I don't know what that's going to look like for us this year with a newborn. So I would say that there is a chance, maybe not a great chance, but that would be fun. The problem is you can't like put like anything on stream. Like you can't actually put the game. I can't show it to you guys on the background. Or just get taken down. YouTube doesn't like that stuff. Possibly. Puka or JSN? The $1,000,000 question today. Puka or JSN? Puka obviously went absolutely crazy. 225 receiving yards against Seattle like a month ago, 16 targets. No Devontae Adams in that game, which is kind of interesting. Seattle in general is a little bit more beatable through like the slot, the middle of the field, all those things. They're like one of the best teams in the league at defending like the outside. So not the best matchup for Devontae in general, but Puka Nacua, I mean, we should just be talking about how he's a tough matchup for defenses obviously. So interesting. A little bit better on paper matchup for Jackson Smith and Jigba. The Rams have given up the 5th highest yards per target to outside wide receivers, kind of like the opposite of what we were just talking about. JSN scored a touchdown in this exact matchup a few weeks ago. Maybe they just end up getting him a little bit more involved. Do have some overs on receiving yards, receptions. The Jackson Smith and Jigba stuff is all over my card for today. It's a great spot. We're hoping to get some efficiency there too, right? We will see. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba if I had to choose one of these guys, mostly because he's $1,000 cheaper, and I've got a pretty similar ceiling for both of these guys today. But it's close. They're both great plays. You can make lineups with both. You can absolutely do that. You can absolutely do that. Maybe we'll build a couple showdown teams today too, just like last week. That was fun. Keep that going. What else? What else? Yeah, I think that like I don't think we need to stay on this one too long. Both them amazing plays, but I think if you do need the extra 1,000, it's okay to go down to JSN. This is like outside of like the tight end debacle that is this slate. This is obviously going to be the most important poll that we do today. So if you've just been watching, make sure you guys vote on this one. Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Cortland Sutton, Cooper Kupp, Kayshon Boutte, Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims Jr., Rashid Shaheed, or other top non-elite wide receiver play today. If you had to choose one, we got some tough matchups. Devontae Adams, like I said, on the outside, it's a little bit tougher against Seattle. Stephon Diggs could end up dealing with a decent amount of Pat Surtain, or maybe they just end up pushing him over to Kayshon Boutte more on the outside. Stephon Diggs does lead that team in routes in the slot. About 52% of his routes are in the slot. Cortland Sutton is going to have to deal with Christian Gonzalez on the outside and obviously a backup quarterback. We got Cooper Kupp, who had like I believe close to a season high in receiving yards last week. It was a really good matchup for him. Seems like people are relatively um, comfortable at 3,800. Cooper Kupp looks like he could approach like 30% ownership on this slate. Yeah, 5 for 60, season high, I believe, in receiving yards, or at least pretty close to it. I think he had one game early in the season where he popped off. Yeah, 90 yards against Pittsburgh. But yeah, outside of that, really strong game for him. 5 targets, 5 receptions, 60 yards. Red zone target. It's interesting at the very least. Pat Bryant, he's in for sure, right? He's dealing with that concussion. Let's check that. See if there's any other Pat Bryant news. Pat Bryant has no injury designation for Sunday's AFC wildcard or AFC championship game. So looks like he's going to be good to go. Rashid Shaheed, that double dip last week. Shaheed plus Seattle defense ends up hitting for us. That's always fun. That's always a fun sweat. Top non-elite wide receiver play. Seems like you guys still like us some Devontae Adams. Devontae is still, like, if you're just hunting for a touchdown, it's not the best matchup in the world, but it does come down to the volume. I'm still a little bit worried that Adams isn't healthy right now. He's been pretty brutal over the last couple weeks, honestly, outside of like that toe tap catch that he had at the end of that game last week. He has not been great. He has not been great. Leading the NFL, though, with 14 receiving touchdowns. Like, it's one of those slates, too, that, like, if you can grab one of those touchdowns with these guys, it might just be enough, right? 87% of his snaps outside, which is not ideal, right? League low, 5.9 yards per target to outside wide receivers. Not ideal. So the yardage is a little bit scary, but he still could easily get there on touchdowns, of course. Is Stidham INT free money today? I do have a Stidham INT play out there. I think that's on one of the videos. So yeah, I like it. I guess in general, I kind of like the Sam Darnold interception as well, even though there's not going to be as much volume. I think that one's interesting. If he does just turn into a pumpkin again, would not be completely shocked. Christian Gonzalez is going to get hurt again. Could be. That is like how all these like 2-game slates can just get flipped on their head quickly if one of those guys goes out early. For sure. For sure. Cortland Sutton, I do have some unders on Cortland Sutton. I took them pretty early in the week before some of these numbers moved aggressively. Longest reception was the one I probably feel the best about. So the under on his longest reception, obviously, if we're just looking at this this defense, they just haven't given up a ton of big plays over the top this entire year, right? And Christian Gonzalez obviously a big part of that. Yeah. Marvin Mims, that big game last week. Obviously, Pat Bryant going out basically immediately in that game last week, who was getting absolutely peppered with targets even before that on that first drive. So there's a lot there. Rashid Shaheed just not running a ton of routes, but would we be like super surprised? No Zach Charbonnet if we got like a few more rush attempts for Shaheed. I think that's like something that could happen. And again, the price is at a spot where like you get a decent amount of savings there if you just have one big play. 4,100 for Shaheed versus like paying up a little bit more for someone like Kayshon Boutte in a tough matchup. Pat Bryant coming off that concussion. It's relatively flat from a salary perspective until you get to the top, Puka and Jackson Smith and Jigba, though. So you can make a lot of these guys work. I think most people are probably just going to pay down, though, to Cooper Kupp at 3,800. So that's the big question. All right, let's get to the most fun poll of the entire day. Top tight end play today. What a gross tight end slate, right? Colby Parkinson, Hunter Henry, AJ Barner, Evan Ingram, Terrence Ferguson, or other. If you had to choose one tight end, who is it? Who are we prioritizing here? The Hunter Henry stuff is kind of interesting, right? Because like we talked about how strong they are like on the outside. Like Hunter Henry has been like just the absolute focal point like through the air this whole season in the red zone. 34% red zone target share, higher than any other tight end. So somewhat interesting. I did take Hunter Henry for a touchdown on one of the long shot videos this week. The Broncos kind of just funnel targets to that area of the field, that position. They gave up a touchdown to Dalton Kincaid last week. Why not Hunter Henry? Why not? Or are we just taking one of these dust balls? Terrace Ferguson, 2,700. We just doing that? Colby Parkinson, 3,500. He's kind of like that bigger play guy, I suppose. 3 touchdowns over his last 3 games. 7 targets in 3 of his last 4. I think Parkinson's the play. But if we're just hunting for a touchdown, like maybe we get an AJ Barner tush push. Maybe we just get a Hunter Henry touchdown, right? So you pay like that $500 more for AJ Barner and you feel pretty good about like having a similar ceiling. I think you're going to catch more ownership on AJ Barner and Hunter Henry than Colby Parkinson. So like I think I would rather take the savings, but it's close. It's very close. Terrace Ferguson, if we're going all the way down, I could see that working out. He's not going to be owned though, so if you guys feel strongly about that, he's one of those guys that can make a lot of sense. All right, let's do this. Best poll of the entire day. This is going to drive what team we stack on our main roster. Favorite team stack. I have this in order of team total. Seattle with a 24-point total. Los Angeles, 22.5-point total. New England, 22. Denver, 18.5-point total. If we were to stack up one team, because I do think that that's kind of the approach to go with, not even just one game, for the most part, like heavily, like basically placing our bet on one team scoring a ton of points today and one quarterback to do so. Who is it? Favorite team stack. And then we're going to throw this into the big tournament on DraftKings. So we're going to build a team here. Ferguson, basically the wide receiver 3. Here's your big guy downfield. I like that call. I like that call. Joe Milk, better late than never. What's up, my man? How we doing? How we doing? Good time to mention you can still play $5, get $50 on prize picks if you use code Holka Live. That's how I know you came from the live stream. Would appreciate the support. Good week to do it. Get your free $50 while you still can. Why not? New England stacking up a Drake May team today. I don't hate that idea. I don't hate that idea. There's some directions we can go there. There's some directions we can go there for sure. There is a few directions we could go there. Do we feel certain about that? The Drake May team. Is that what we want to do? Let this run a few more seconds. We're in between a Stafford and a Drake May team currently. I don't hate the idea. I don't hate it. What's the weather like in New England? Good question. Oh, and the weather is in Denver, by the way. Yeah, I forgot Denver. Number 1 seed. Very cold, but it looks like everything's gonna be fine. Not a ton of wind. Should be good. Thought it was going to snow. It might be snowing in New England, but even if it does in Denver, it looks like it's gonna be cold, but probably like closer to like the 20s. Yeah, I don't see any snow though. Cool. All right, Drake May. That's the play. So if we get Drake in there, I think we have to basically decide. I like the idea of getting Hunter Henry on this team. I know we talked about all these other dust ball tight ends, but the Drake May to Hunter Henry correlation still is one of the strongest that we have in this entire slate. And most of that is going to be driven on touchdowns, right? So I do like that. Stephon Diggs is an interesting one, right? Because you could basically place your bet that he's going to end up just doing a ton of damage in the slot, doing a ton of damage. Because from a volume perspective, I know he scored last week, just 6 targets. We haven't had like that alpha game from him since like the Jets Ravens like stretch in December. So we could go Diggs. I think the next question we should ask ourselves, though, personally, is what do we do with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Cup? Or sorry, Cooper Cup. Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua, right? Because I think we're probably playing one of those guys. Most likely not playing both. I personally am not on the Kenneth Walker fade, so I am going to throw him in there. If we wanted to go with one of the Jackson Smith and Jigba or Puka Nacua, Like, we could just really stack up this game and then just go like JSN Kenneth Walker. Like, that's the only thing we play on the second game. I actually don't think that's the worst approach. We could just play Puka in the other game. There is probably, I think the only way we get in both of these guys is if we wouldn't have played Hunter Henry, most likely. By the way, I do like the idea of playing Denver defense on this. So we get like a strip sack. We get like a fumble recovery for a touchdown, ball right back into Drake May's hands. I actually think that correlation is stronger. That's like one of the things I feel pretty strongly about on these short slates is just getting the quarterback versus defense correlation. Because realistically, we just need like a pick six and it's back in his hands, speeds up the game. If Broncos get out ahead, Drake May ends up throwing more. There's a lot of things that look good. So I do like the Broncos Drake May correlation, even though that looks a little bit weird. It's really tough to get in Puka and JSN to this roster, though. I do have a man crush on Diggs for sure. Yeah, that's well documented. Well documented. So I think what we're looking at here is we probably would have to decide between doing like a JSN Devontae Adams or doing just like basically just a JSN Kenneth Walker type of thing is what I'm looking at. We could do probably those three. It would basically have to figure out exactly what we want to do with Drake May. So let's keep working through Drake May. We're going to leave the light on for possibly getting in Puka this team still. JSN helps a little bit with salary, but I think a lot of people are probably going to feel that way. Kenneth Walker versus JSN. I was actually just trying to figure out like how well do they actually correlate together, and it's super negative, right? So I don't hate the idea of just playing Kenneth Walker and trying to figure out a way to go like really heavy into this other game and maybe getting in Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is just such a tough matchup for him that I'm a little skittish on that. The Puka Nacua negative correlation and something we talked about a little bit last week. The negative correlation is basically one of the tight ends or Kyron Williams. Yeah. The Kyron Williams stuff is kind of interesting too, just because we know that he's probably going to get a little bit more usage in the passing game than normal. So I actually kind of like the Kyron angle. I think we can do that. If we are going to play Kenneth Walker, which I think I would prefer to play Kenneth Walker on this team, I think this would be like my starting point. And then I'll let you guys kind of drive the bus a little bit from here. I think Ramondre has been used enough in the passing game that he still makes a ton of sense on this roster. 4 targets in back-to-back games. Obviously, he's had some ceiling with some of those big plays as well. So I am going to throw Ramondre on this team. We're going to go 3 running back on this one, I think. I don't think that's the worst idea, especially with the Drake May team. Captain John, what's up, my man? Appreciate you subscribing. If you take out Henry for Parkinson and Ingram at the flex, you can fit in Puka and JSN with Walker. I don't hate that idea, man. I don't hate that idea. I think for this one, I want to pick one of those guys. I would like to make a Puka team work. I still think that his ceiling is absolutely nuclear. But it's just hard to figure that out. Like, I keep just going back to, like, what is that negative correlation, right? The JSN one isn't quite as bad. I could see both sets. Stevenson and Mac Hollins. Yeah, we probably should figure out what to do with Drake May here and see what that leaves us with. If we do play Diggs, 6,100 the rest of the way. We could find one of these dust balls. We could. We could get one of those dust balls in there. We could play for that Rashid Shaheed type play. Kayshon Bouttie's the one that I'm struggling with a little bit on the outside. But if we were going to play for a big play, That makes some sense. I think just for me, the Stephon Diggs one just makes a little bit more sense. So Diggs, Stevenson, Henry, I think that's plenty on the New England side. On the Denver side, this roster does not allow for RJ Harvey. So I would personally try and find our way to like one of these Denver guys, one of these cheaper Denver guys. So we're kind of looking at like, how do we feel about Pat Bryant? If this ownership holds, I actually think that that's a relatively strong play. Pat Bryant, I mean, just him getting peppered with targets last week. What does that leave us with if we throw Bryant in there? That gets us to 7,800. We can almost get to JSN. So we could do a little bit of maneuvering here and maybe get to him. Maybe get to him. If we didn't go Kyron, I mean, we could play around with not playing Kenneth Walker, even though I don't love that idea personally. So I think there's two main paths. It's like, does Sam Darnold end up going completely crazy? Because then maybe a JSN is like the one you need. He's like 125 and 2. Kenneth Walker doesn't get in the end zone. Something weird happens, right? Like at the AJ Barner, like tush push, something like that. It's just really hard to get away from him. But we could fade him, right? We're trying to win. We're trying to win. Let's just play a thought experiment for a second. Something like that. So if we're willing to go down from Kenneth Walker to RJ Harvey, that gets us to JSN. So then basically what we'd be looking at is Drake May, Stephon Diggs, Hunter Henry, Ramondre Stevenson. The full New England stack, bringing it back with Pat Bryant and RJ Harvey on Denver, fully stacking up that first game. And then we basically get the Kyron Williams, who hopefully takes away touchdowns from Devontae Adams from Puka Nacua. Not the highest likely outcome, but we did kind of just see it last week. And then on the other side, we get JSN. So we're playing like that nuclear side for Sam Darnold and JSN. Even if we get some efficiency here is kind of what we're hoping for, right? Because we still hope that we get the volume from Drake May and we get that first game. We get some points there at some lower ownership. But then we also just get like that nuclear JSN performance. It is a fantastic matchup for him. So if we're playing for first in this like top heavy tournament, I don't think that it's the worst idea in the world to at least consider a Kenneth Walker fade. Maybe it's donating, but this is what I'm going with. I've talked myself into it. Play that at your own risk, because obviously Kenneth Walker, probably the best play on the entire slate. So I'm not sure what's wrong with me, but that's what we're going with. Probably should put Kyron Williams in the flex, though. I'm not that crazy. So we could still late swap this if we really wanted to. All right, we got that worked in. Should we build a couple showdown teams just for fun? We have the technology. We could do it. We could do it. All right, let's start with the first game then. And New England. Let's close this out. I'm going to let you guys pick, since I guess went full rogue on that first lineup, I'm going to let you guys pick the captain here. So this first game, so our ceiling plays are May. All right, captain play. May, Stidham. The two quarterbacks, obviously. We could go Denver DST. We could go New England DST. We could go Ramondre. We could go Harvey. We're going to run this poll in a second. We could just put these guys on here. The wide receiver 1 on each side. Diggs, Sutton, Travion, we'll put him in there. We got room for one more on this poll. Who else can it be? Hunter Henry. Let's go Hunter Henry. All right. You guys pick the captain. I'm going to let this roll for maybe a minute and a half. All right. Captain, play. Drake May, Stidham, Denver defense, New England defense, Ramondre, Harvey, Sutton, Diggs, Travion Henderson, Hunter Henry. What do we like? Who's our captain? Always takes captain. Wouldn't be shocked if Stidham throws for 2 TDs and runs for a TD. He doesn't run a ton, does he? I love on Player Profiler, we can just see like just quickly who the best comparable player is. The best comparable player for Jarrett Stidham is Case Keenum. Case Keenum. If there was a reason to play Stephon Diggs, I think it's that comparison right there. Let's get a few more votes here. We got almost 80 people in here hanging out. A couple votes for our captain would be much appreciated. Game number 1, AFC Championship game. Who do we want for a captain here, friends? Who do we want? Some more votes for Diggs. Why not us, right? Here we go with the Broncos hate. We did play the Diggs captain last week, and it worked out for us. I'm a little biased. Some of my biggest DFS wins in my entire life have been with Stephon Diggs. Okay. You don't have to twist my arm. So if we go Diggs captain, that does allow us to do a lot of kind of fun things. So we're obviously going to throw Drake May on this team in the flex, right? I think we like that. If we're talking pure ceiling and some guys that correlate relatively well, we probably still want to get both quarterbacks on this team. I think that would be a good idea. Both quarterbacks. If Drake May goes completely nuts, we're still going to need some pushback on the other side. So I think that makes some sense. Stephon Diggs in particular is kind of interesting because his correlations are more about they're more about like the running backs. So like Ramondre actually had some decent games still, but that just really puts us in kind of a bind with salary. Can we even make that work? If we did that with Stidham, what kind of options do we have left? We're kind of looking at like potentially playing like Denver defense and then some dust ball. I actually don't mind the Denver defense with this one though, right? We talked about it with Drake May as like a decent correlation just because like if we get like a strip sack, we get like maybe that's how they score their points. I think that's kind of interesting. Denver defense and Stidham together, I think, is going to be kind of unique too. So then we're kind of looking at like a Demario Douglas probably, which is at least somewhat interesting because of where he plays. He plays kind of in that middle of the field. So like if it is not Hunter Henry in the middle of the field, if it's not Stephon Diggs in the middle of the field, maybe it's Pop Douglas. Not a great correlation though. Do we go like really gross with like what's something grosser down there that we could go with? McLaughlin. We can't quite get to one of the kickers. Austin Hooper, that's gross. That's certainly gross. The Austin Hooper one's kind of interesting because it takes away from the Hunter Henry people. We're already kind of playing that game already. I would say, like, if we have the Stephon Diggs complete alpha game, though, we probably don't want Pop Douglas there because that's just taking away that ultimate, like, volume from Diggs. Like, the guy that I would play with like you'd want like the Kayshawn Booty and Pop Douglas together, right? Not necessarily like the Diggs and Pop together. Because Austin Hooper can get there on just a touchdown at that price. And then we take away from all the people that think it's just going to be Hunter Henry. It's just not getting a ton of targets. It's interesting. It's like the one like somewhat leverage option we have though in this range that's not one of the running backs. I think I talked myself into it. I think I'm going to go leaving a bunch of salary on the table and that final flex just being Austin Hooper. So Diggs, May, Stevenson, Austin Hooper. Broncos defense for some correlation there. Hopefully we get more to the New England side, and then just Stidham, hopefully that he doesn't completely fall on his face. We're trying to build very different teams in Showdown, ones that aren't going to be duped, but also give us like a little bit of like a story, right? We could tell a story that one works out. All right, let's close this poll out, and we'll do a captain poll for the NFC Championship game. Stafford, Darnold, Puka, JSN, Devontae. Who else? Kyron, Walker. We got the Walker fade going on our main team. Maybe we just go with a Walker captain, something like that. Who else? Who else would we consider in game number 2 in our captain spot? What do you guys think? If we're talking like pure ceiling, probably could put in. Did we put Kyron on there? Yeah, Kyron. Maybe it's Seattle DST. Maybe it's Rams DST. The DST captain teams are kind of fun to root for sometimes. What else? What else? Maybe a Cooper Kupp. Let's do Kupp as our last one. NFC Championship captain. In order to place your vote, exclamation point vote, space the number. What do we think here, friends? What do we want here? NFC Championship captain play. Who is it? Who is the path to $200,000 in this Showdown conference tournament? Who is it? Duke's still all over the Broncos with his backup quarterback. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. Did you guys see the video of the mentalist or whatever like that? I don't even know what you would call him. He's not, I guess, what would you even call him? The mentalist. Isn't that what his name is? Oz the Mentalist Super Bowl prediction still in play. Who is Oz the Mentalist? Magician. I didn't want to say the word magician, but known for reading people's minds and performing. You guys saw that clip? We might have to just show that quickly before we get into this, because that's a lot of fun. Let's see if we can show this. That would work. Oh, that is the wrong one. That is the Josh Allen one. Here we go. 2 months ago. Let's move the poll. Let's hide the poll for a second. There we go. Let's just watch this for fun.
Excited to be able to have him, and he's also
Search
late
speed up
for this meeting, so we're going to find the out of him too. Everybody welcome O's, man.
Too quiet. Let's go.
Here we go. The Los Angeles Rams. How we feeling, guys? I want you all to dig deep right now. If you could ask me a question that you go, not only is there no way I can know this, but it's not on my social media. I don't even think my brother or sister or mom or dad might know this. Think of a question like that. Raise your hand if you got a question.
I gotta get you guys
Tell
better
us all
view.
your first name.
Keep letting
Jared.
this roll though.
Jared, stand up for me. Let's hear it for Jared, everybody. Can we be crystal clear on this? There is absolutely no way in the world I can know what this question is.
Nah.
Hit me with the question.
The first anime I've ever watched.
Count the letters to yourself, and then just pick one of the letters out. Just grab it out like a Scrabble tile. You got one of the letters?
Yeah.
T. Are you thinking of a T?
Yeah.
Cover your eyes for me. Would anybody in this room know this?
There you go. That works
Nah.
better.
I got the second word. Keep your eyes closed for me, Jared. This isn't even me asking a question. He comes up with a question on the spot that he says there's no way I could know. Jared, open your eyes. Tell us all. What was the first anime you ever watched?
Death Note.
Death Notes.
Let's,
Look at this. Look at
let's go
me.
to the
Close your
Stafford
eyes.
part.
Close your eyes.
What's it say?
Me, pick anybody. Let me see who
All right,
wants it
here
right
we
now.
go.
Let me see that energy. Who wants in? Coach, you go pick someone. You go pick anybody you want. Cam Curl. Where are you, Cam? Pleasure to meet you. Cam, have we
Where's
ever
the
spoken to word
Stafford
I'd
one?
like to
This
ask everybody
isn't
that
even the
question.
one that I thought was coming.
Coach,
I'm going to find this. This isn't even the one I thought it was. This will work.
Matthews.
This will work. There we go.
Stand up for me.
This is what I was looking for.
Imagine you have a football in your hands. Visualize it. And close your eyes.
Okay.
I want you to see yourself grabbing that ball, throwing it to anybody in this room. Stand up. Swear to God, I did not tell you what to do. Random choice, you could have picked anybody.
Correct.
Tell us, who are you in your mind seeing catching that ball right at this moment? Say it.
Not that
Devontae
much of a
Adams.
stretch.
Turn
right?
around, open your eyes. One man is standing up. I told him stand up, Devontae Adams.
Okay. Not a big stretch.
Right.
Devontae.
The Taco Bell hoodie. Can we talk about the Taco Bell hoodie for a second? Good God.
Imagine that we go all the way. Playoffs. We win. We win. We win. We're in the Super
This was
Bowl.
like 2 months
See
ago.
that happening in your mind? Write down the score on the palm of your other hand. Big. Hold it close to your heart when you're done. Matthew.
Yes.
Take this ball.
Okay.
Look one more time. Side to side. That spin. Might as well be saying it to me in my ear.
Yeah.
Go. What's your play?
Throwing it to Kyron.
Kyron catches it. Now what?
He's throwing it back to me. Right? And then I'm throwing it to Kobe Durant.
Kobe Bryant.
Kyron. And then Kobe Durant.
Crazy. This is the part, though, that's still in play.
Broncos, isn't it? It's the Broncos in your mind. Am I right? I knew it was.
So Devontae says Broncos is the team they're going to play in the Super Bowl.
23-14. Is that the score? Show me your hand.
23-14 is his score prediction.
But wait. Matthew, stop. You could have thrown to anybody in this room.
Yes.
Kyron, what's your jersey number? 23. Kobe, what's your jersey number?
Crazy.
14.
23-14. So this is like still in play, believe it or not. How crazy is that? Absolutely crazy. You're really high on Diggs from what it sounds. Yes. Do like Diggs. There's obviously going to be that risk that he ends up seeing a decent amount of Surtain in this game. But if he does not, he's in a really good spot. Cool. All right, let's build this last team. So far, we have just 2 votes on this. Come on. JSN and Walker. So I'm going to make the executive decision here. And let's build a Walker team. Let's build a Walker team just because last time I decided to remove him from our other team. So if we did a Walker team. So I think we can safely fade Jackson Smith and Jigba if we are going to do a Kenneth Walker captain. And I would say if we're just looking at straight correlations, the guys that typically still can overperform while Kenneth Walker is overperforming, one of the interesting ones that I kind of like here is actually Cooper Kupp. So Cooper Kupp, save some salary. So we'll start there. Who are some of our like non-negotiables if we get both those guys in? I would say if we're not going to play JSN, leaves us plenty of room to play. Plenty of room to get Puka in there if we want to. Plenty of room to go pretty heavy on the Ram side if we wanted to. What do you guys think? I think we get Puka in there because we can afford him. We don't have him on that other roster. It's kind of interesting because what's flooding optimals and sims from this build is still like these two defense teams, which I don't love. I would prefer not to do that with Kenneth Walker. We could still play Seattle defense, though. I think that makes some sense. If we get like that nuclear, like 25 carry game, right? So I think Seattle D is fine. I would say we're probably, well, we're definitely not going to get JSN on this team, I don't think, in an optimal. What do you guys think about like a full? This one might be a little bit crazy. So if we only get Puka on the other side, we go straight 5-1, and then we get Darnold in. So we're fading Stafford in this build, but hear me out. And then we go with like a Barner, just to like leave a little bit of salary on the table too. Hopefully get a tush push, which would take away potentially from Kenneth Walker at the goal line. But I still think it's like one of those ones at 4,800. If you get like that random one-off touchdown, makes some sense. Maybe this correlates too negatively, I guess would be like my concern. I'm trying to figure out what's like a unique build I can do with Kenneth Walker, because I think he's going to be one of the more popular captains for sure. I think the one that I'd be the most worried about is JSN, like the JSN nuclear game, probably not the Kenneth Walker nuclear game. So it's interesting. We could do it Rashid Shaheed if you guys feel better about that. This actually projects pretty well with just one on the other side with the nuclear Puka, and then just an all-out kind of Seattle stack on the other side. I like it. I like it. All right, guys, this was fun. Appreciate you guys being with us yet again. Ideally, we're going to get one more stream before the end of the season, talk through the Super Bowl, all that good stuff. It's going to depend on if my wife goes into labor. If that happens, we'll probably have to adjust some of the schedule. But appreciate you guys being with us. If we don't do another one of these, it's been an awesome year. I really look forward to these live streams every single Sunday morning. And we'll see you guys again soon, hopefully. If not, we'll see you next year. And obviously, the fantasy lead up will be a lot of fun yet again. Enjoy the games today, and best of luck with the rest of your rosters. Peace.